Intelligent disobedience. Is there really such a thing? Yes, and effective leaders use it to improve the decision culture around them. Want to know how? Watch this short video. I'm Bob Windover. I have a friend named Andre who is vision impaired. He has a guide dog named Crimson. And Crimson is trained to assist Andre as he navigates the day. Now, the other day, Andre and I were walking together, and Andre said to Crimson, "Crimson, right." But instead of obeying, Crimson stopped. And Andre again said, "Crimson, right." But Crimson just stayed where he was. Now, when I looked to see why Crimson did not obey, I realized that the curb Andre expected to step off of was about maybe 18 inches high, rather than a normal height. If Crimson had turned right, chances are Andre would have fallen. You see, Andre had walked this path before and thought that he knew where to turn. But in fact, he had tried to turn too soon. Now, when I expressed surprise at Crimson's reaction, Andre said, "Oh, that's called intelligent disobedience. Crimson has been trained to stop when he detects danger." Now, that got me thinking about the potential value of training those who we lead to display intelligent disobedience. Well, maybe not training, that's not the right word, but perhaps a better word would be permission. Have you ever been asked to do something you knew was not a good idea? We all have at one time or another. Chances are you protested. Maybe you said, "Wait a minute, that's wrong," or "Hey, that's not a good idea." Perhaps you offered an alternative. But in any case, you probably had the confidence to object. But how about the individuals you supervise? Do they have that same confidence if they are asked to do something that to them perceives as misguided? After all, there can be a risk in doing so. You might upset the boss. You might be embarrassed if your alternative doesn't work out. Now, you might even discover that there's a kind of a backstory you weren't aware of as to why you were asked to do so. As I've explained before, the brain can be a mighty powerful thing in dissuading you from doing something if the outcome is uncertain. So, when you're asked to do something that maybe to you doesn't seem right, you're ending up with a dilemma. Do you speak up or just comply and let the chips fall where they may? So why would someone simply comply rather than questioning what they've been asked to do or told to do? Well, there's two possible reasons. You might be able to think of maybe a couple more. Reason number one is that the boss told you to do it. And because he or she is the boss, they must know what they're doing, right? And that's when you get into an exchange like this, where the boss says, "Why on earth would you do that?" And you say, "Well, you told me to." And the boss says, "Well, why didn't you say something if you knew it was wrong?" To which you would say, "Well, because you're the boss. I figured you knew what you were doing." Now, reason number two. The person is not as invested perhaps as they should be, or doesn't care enough to really be of concern about this type of thing. Do you know people like that? Sadly, unfortunately, there's a few of them in every work environment. Maybe they were lazy, maybe they don't really care about the outcome, maybe they have some sort of ulterior motive about the boss looking stupid, whatever. But once again, you get into an exchange like this. Why on earth would you do that? "Well, you told me to do it." "Well, why didn't you say something if you knew it was wrong?" "Well, because you're the boss." Now, of course, the translation in this case is, "Hey, it's your funeral, not mine," right? So, how can we go about communicating and encouraging the concept of intelligent disobedience among those with whom we work? Here are a couple of ideas. First, give them permission. Now, as much as this might sound like something that's unnecessary, announce to your team that you are not infallible, right? You make mistakes and misinterpret situations just like they do. Let them know that you expect them to call you on decisions or directions that don't appear to make sense. In some cases, there might be a reason for what you're doing that you're unaware of. But better to ask or maybe even challenge rather than blindly following a request that could go off the rails. In today's overwhelming workplace, oversights are becoming more and more commonplace. Reinforce this concept every time a situation like this arises. Now, second, celebrate the times when intelligent disobedience has saved the day. When these incidents do actually happen, mention them at the next meeting and explain what happened, or maybe send out an email as to what happened and celebrate the fact that the person did it, laud them in some way, and as a result of that, they'll feel good, and you'll also teach some people. Not only does this reinforce the concept, it gives the person a pat on the back. Now, we can all use more of those right now. Now, this sounds like common sense, right? But are the people around you comfortable challenging your direction when they perceive that it's maybe going the wrong way or see even a better alternative? It may be human nature to think of alternatives when something doesn't make sense, but it is not human nature to challenge the boss or the conventional wisdom. As a leader, you have to nurture that. But when you do, you'll be rewarded with people who keep you and the organization's best interests at heart, and will say something when the decision doesn't seem to make sense. What do you do to improve the decision culture around you? We'd all like to know. Put your comments in the space below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for more insights just like this one. I'm Bob Wendover.